Alberta Primetime with Michael Higgins.
Welcome to Alberta Primetime. Ahead tonight, our Friday panel on the policy push reigniting debate over fluoride. But first, countdown to a deal.
I'm personally encouraged by the progress that we're making. There's a few more issues that we're working on ironing out.
We've been going back and forth on an MOU every day, I think, as we're getting the final wording, and I'm really hopeful that we'll have something more to say about that in a few days.
Comments in the wake of the federal government's latest announcement of nation-building projects, a list that did not include a pipeline for Alberta. Now, the Premier had previously set Grey Cup weekend as the deadline for a deal, but now indicates that probably won't be met. Joining us to discuss that and more, NDP leader Nenshi. Mr. Nenshi, good to see you again, sir.
Thanks so much, Michael. Great to be here with you.
Okay, no pipeline, but negotiations that could push past the Premier's stated deadline of the Grey Cup weekend. Your assessment of what's currently playing out here?
I kind of laugh at the Premier's deadlines because I think in the early part of this year, she said there were 3 months to get rid of the paper straws law until she would cause a national unity crisis. And now we are many, many months beyond that. We've got yet more deadlines. But let's get to the basics of this, which is having that memorandum is a good thing. Figuring out how we're going to work together is a good thing. But there is no pipeline projects. That's the critical thing to understand. We need more pipelines. And, you know, I know how to get pipelines built. The New Democrats know how to get pipelines built. But what we have from these folks is, from the Premier in particular, is a pipe dream, not a pipeline. You know, the process that she's put in place, make an announcement without a proponent, without a route, without any investment, without the approval of communities or Indigenous people along the line, without giving a heads up to the Prime Minister or the Premier of British Columbia that you're going to do that, is a recipe for failure. And I think Albertans can ask themselves, is it because she doesn't know what she's doing, or the government doesn't know what they're doing, or is it because they actually don't want a pipeline because they do better when they lose and they make people really angry? I don't know what the answer is, but what I do know is we need a pipeline. And the government of Alberta's approach isn't doing much to get us one.
Okay.
So there are other projects that need to be in place. We've heard some really good work from Enbridge, some really positive things about things they can do to increase capacity on their main line. We've heard great things from Trans Mountain about what they can do to increase the capacity of the Trans Mountain expansion. These are all really good things. But ultimately, we need to be able to roll up our sleeves and do the work, and sometimes that happens outside of the public eye.
Okay, so but you agree that there is a need for an MOU, a grand bargain, as
well,
the
there's a need for the grand bargain. Let's put it that way, right?
So
I don't know what an MOU is. That stands for Memorandum of Understanding. If we're being jargony. There are lots of memorandums all over the place.
Sure.
But we need to get stuff built.
But what does it though need to deliver for Albertans, that agreement?
I think what it needs to do is set up a stable investing regime, and it needs to get rid of a lot of the red tape that has gotten in the way of all kinds of projects, not just oil pipelines, all kinds of projects. You know, for example, building the Springbank Dry Dam as a flood mitigation project in Calgary took years of federal environmental assessment. So having the Major Projects Office in Calgary is great. Having them have the ability to have a one-window system where your project is approved once and your permitting goes through quickly once your project is approved, that stuff really matters. And if we can get to some more specificity on how that works for projects that are important to Alberta, not just an oil pipeline, but also the pathways, carbon sequestration projects, also public transit projects, rail projects, that's very, very helpful for creating the investment stability that private industry needs to put billions of dollars on the table.
Okay, you're coming off a constituency week, fall sitting set to resume. The sessional calendar says only 2 more weeks scheduled, maybe a little bit longer than that, though.
Probably another week or 2 after that, I would guess.
Okay, so what are you prioritizing in that short amount of time as opposition?
Well, let me tell you, my first 2 weeks in the legislature have certainly been eventful and kind of spicy. On my very first day in the legislature, of course, we had the unprecedented preemptive use of the notwithstanding clause to take away the rights of workers. We will probably see the notwithstanding clause used again as soon as Monday, maybe against vulnerable children. This is pretty shocking stuff, and it certainly wasn't what I expected when I took my seat in the legislature. But That said, we are still focused, laser focused on the things Albertans have told us are important. The affordability crisis, cost of living, jobs, healthcare, education, public safety. So on Monday, for example, we will have a vote on a bill that we have put forward called Protecting Workers' Pay. And that is about reasonable, predictable increases to the minimum wage and indexing the minimum wage to inflation to deal with the youth unemployment crisis. It's about protecting workers' tips so that when you press a button on the terminal to give a worker a tip, the worker actually gets that money. These are things that we're focused on because they're the things Albertans are focused on. So you're going to hear a lot more from us on the economy, on jobs, on cost of living, on education, on healthcare, and on safety.
Okay. Also want to add, your party's out with a new online 3-minute video produced by an American political ad agency. It puts a big focus on you, your backstory. Why do you need to be reintroduced to Albertans?
I mean, who doesn't want to see this face, Michael, as much as possible? But no, this is part of a big campaign that we're starting, which we're saying basically is on the theme of Albertans deserve better. And in order to have a better Alberta, we have to elect a better government. And as Alberta's New Democrats, we are ready to be that government. And it starts with a conversation, about me. A lot of people know me, but a lot of people don't know where I came from and why I do the public service that I do. And so we thought this was a great way to launch and bring it in. And I'm just so proud of our New Democrat staff. They're so creative, they're so talented, who put this together with the help of some outside consultants. And I'm really happy with it. It's gone totally viral. I hope people share it because it gives people a sense of what a New Democrat government would look like.
Okay, well, now it has an election campaign feel to it. It punches on the point of being ready. So is this the NDP targeting 2027 or the NDP being ready for an early election call?
Look, we don't know. Certainly, last spring, the Premier's office brought together all the UCP staff and said, look, things are only getting worse. The NDP is, for us, the NDP is getting more popular. The economy is not in a good place. And when the corrupt care report comes out, it's going to make us look bad. So let's call an election immediately. And in the end, they didn't do that. Instead, they called the by-elections, including the one that put me in the legislature. And right now, they're not in great shape. When I look across the aisle, I see a bunch of folks who are, shall we say, questioning their life choices. They got elected as a conservative government, but they're in the highest spending government in Alberta's history. They got elected as people who believe in human rights and freedom, and yet they're the first government in Alberta's history to knowingly pass an unconstitutional law, and it looks like they're going to do it again and try and shield themselves from courts using the notwithstanding clause, which means we're passing something that's unconstitutional and we don't care. So even the caucus is very uncomfortable with where they are. This is not what they signed up to do. So you never know. The Premier might roll the dice thinking things are only going to get worse. We could have a very early election. She might wait until the actual fixed election date, which is in October 2027. Regardless, we're ready. And our job is to show Albertans that we're ready to govern.
All right. We have to leave it there for time. As always, appreciate
Thanks so much,
your time,
Michael.
sir.
Have a great
Thank
weekend,
you.
everyone.
That's NDP leader Nenshi.